everyone, and welcome to the Show Me How podcast. I'm John Skuris.
And I'm Stephanie Weber.
And we're here for episode 13 of our Show Me How podcast.
Lucky 13.
That's right.
Yep.
It's going to be a good one. It's very hot here in Chicago. It's a good day for this smoldering experience. Hopefully you're having a great summer, and we're going to talk to you about a smoldering issue. We're going to show you how to fix a failing renovation.
Right. So to follow up on what we talked about in the last episode with my brother.
We're following up from Dean's episode last week. So Dean covered a lot of subjects in that episode. I think it was a great episode, but we went through a lot.
We did.
And so what we thought was we're going to break this down a little bit more precisely for you and give you a couple tools. And again, these tools, by the way, they're just helpful little templates to help you through. We're not like anything earth-shattering. But we want to give you a little guidance, a little direction on how to keep a hold of these projects or whatever particular type of purchase or what have you that you're doing.
Right, because I think you and I, even after that episode, I mean, just being in the industry, I've heard more horror stories about, you know, people getting in too deep and then not knowing what to do. So that's kind of why we're doing it.
Dean, we got into this one. Dean bought this house from a police officer that took it all apart and then couldn't put it back together. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you are not a project manager, you don't have an intention about these things, you can get into real trouble. And if you have contractors who are kind of flying by night, or they may be good carpenters or plumbers even, but project management's a real important component.
Because they're managing all aspects of the project.
Well, you're managing all aspects, meaning all resources, right? So all vendors. Right. So if you're doing a bigger project, you have plumbing, electrical, HVAC, you know, those things have to be coordinated. You know, you can't put up drywall if you don't have the electrical and plumbing installed, right? And so you have to have, so schedules are very hard, and especially nowadays, you know.
With material.
Materials, but also the vendors are booked. I was trying to work with an old friend, vendor Junior, who worked with us when we built my house way back in 1998, and he's like, I can't do anything till November.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, you know, there's other people like our friend Frank from Frank's HVAC who he can get out there pretty quick. I think he's in a different industry. It's more emergency based for them. Yeah. People's heat breaks in the middle of winter here in Chicago.
I don't think he's putting entire systems in, though.
I think he does, but it's less, right? It's more service.
Right.
Which is, so he's there for you. But he can do the kind of installation.
Oh, for sure. I just think right now it's more triaging, you know?
Yeah, and so the project manager piece is important. So what we're going to give you is some guidance on kind of what to do, how to identify when you're in trouble, and then what to do when you discover you're in trouble,
right?
And what steps to take, and how to legally protect yourself a little bit anyway. We're not lawyers. We're not giving you legal advice.
No, we're not giving you legal advice at all.
So just remember that for every episode.
But, you know, one of the big things is if you're already seeing signs of, like, the project unraveling, like, it's not going to get better.
No.
So if you're a project manager,
potentially, if you're there to manage it.
If you're there to manage it, but if he's skipped a day, doesn't answer, like my brother said, that's warning signs. Like if things start
when they start to pile up, that's when the issue really becomes real.
And then we'll walk you through what to do when it does go sideways, your course of action, cutting your losses.
Yeah, we're not about prevention. We're about survival.
Survival.
In this situation, right?
And still finishing strong.
I mean, we want you to prevent it up front if you can. But this episode is kind of more about what happens when the wheels start coming off the wagon.
Right. So let's rewind a little bit. What should happen in the first 7 days when you sign with the contractor?
Well, because if you wait until things go wrong
to
set expectations, it's already too late, right? So up front, you know, as Dean said when he shared that story about the $1 million renovation, which I was at this meeting, by the way, and it went to $2.5 million. I mean, this is all because the client, you know, we'll say he trusted the vendors. I guess that's the right way to put it, right?
Right. I think, though, sometimes, you know, if you don't educate yourself, and we went back to this and talking about, like, how to price out, when Dean talked about the costs and understanding it, just the basics. And if you're just going off what your GC says, then, you know, if they realize that, okay, these guys aren't really looking in anything, we're just going to kind of go with this.
Well, I think that's a great point. I mean, really, you're right. If you don't get off on the right foot from the get-go, and it's it's really the contractor's. I'll put it on the contractor's responsibility. But a lot of us come out there as, us being homeowners or property owners, and we're like, yeah, we want to do this and that and the other thing, and it's real vague and big, and you if you don't dial in and get a project spec sheet and a project plan and a scope and a materials list, how many sheets of drywall, all that stuff is important, then you really don't have a plan.
Right.
And I think that may have been very well what happened with these people. They may have just handed it off. And this happens a lot I've seen a lot. I've been down there 2-3 times the past couple months. I saw 2 projects go way off track. Millions and millions of dollars off track.
I think it happens really everywhere, though, because I see it happen in Chicago, too. Like,
yeah, I guess,
with my emails, like, do you know someone that could fix this, fix that? It's a really important part of you. Like, if you're doing anything, right, do your research, do your homework. Don't just hire one GC either. Like, interview a couple.
Just don't hire the first one, right? Interview a few. Project planning. I'm a project manager, so I take it for granted that people are going to use project management. Oh, it's predecessor, successor. Project management isn't really that difficult when you boil it down at the highest level.
Right.
Predecessor, successor relationships. There's a list of tasks and there's a branch of tasks. So it starts with the initial meeting and the scope, and it goes on to all the projects starting at once. So it could be the plumber can start, the carpenter can start, the tile guy can start, electrician can start, but then things start taking longer times and shorter times.
Right.
And that's when the project management skills come in.
Like how to pivot, right?
Well, you got to pivot, but you should know in advance what that schedule is going to be and how you're going to line up. Like the drywall contractor is going to come. So here's the start of the project. Here's the end of it. Or let's say where all these projects start to collapse.
Right.
Towards getting the drywall up, right? That's a big move and a big project.
That's the end.
You got to have that drywall contractor lined up with all these other people, and that plumber and that electrician and those carpenters and those cabinetry people and the countertop people need to be there ready, and they have to be there on the dates that they're setting or within, we always put a 2 to 3 day time frame.
Exactly.
So you give a little room for, problems that occur. And the longer the time frame, by the way, you got to check in on these people on your project.
I agree.
But we're getting a little off target here.
Right.
But essentially getting this project plan organized, not just trusting the contractor is going to do it right, and checking in, and not just taking one form of phone call or a picture or something as evidence. So we're going to go into that now. So really, you want a checklist, right?
On the first week, this is what my brother was talking about when he talked about the checklist.
Yeah. So ask for the city issue permits. Verify that they're filed and they're posted on. So you usually post them
on the windows,
in the window or somewhere. Depending on the type of permit, you might want to hide it a little bit. Like I post, like if you get a window permit to rehab an entire building, that's old times. That's old times.
That's old times.
We don't do that anymore. Set up weekly check-ins, which you really want to do site visits.
Yeah, you gotta have some. If you're not there, make sure you have someone that you trust to go see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So,
if you can't be there,
site visits, phone calls, and photographs are great. However, as Stephanie said, you really need somebody on the ground.
Yeah.
And if these people are in Florida and they're obviously doing pretty well, and I think they're in Chicago, and so fly, once a month minimally, or every 3 weeks.
Right. Or like he said, hire a project manager to
both. I think you need to even with the project manager, you need to put your eyes on it, because, by the way, a lot of times when people discuss, I want this and I want to do that and I want it to look like this, and then you go see it and you're like,
it's not that.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, one customer I work with, he rebuilds things 2 and 3 times over and over. It's like maddening, but he's loaded. It's still maddening, though. The contractors don't like it, by the way. Even though they're making money, I'm serious. Even though they're making more money on the project, they get aggravated.
Well, I mean, it's just you want something to come to an end. Every project has a beginning.
Well, they have other projects too, and the customers often feel I'm giving them more business, right? But these guys get aggravated, and then they don't want to work on your project anymore, and they get what's it called? Fatigue, project fatigue, or deal fatigue. So in real estate, it's a very real thing. I do commercial real estate, as we know. And some of these deals are real big, and they take a long time to get done. And, you're dealing with some pretty shrewd people, and they could drag it out and just beat a dead horse, literally. Sorry for the pun, but it's like painful. And what ends up happening is what's called deal fatigue.
Right.
And same thing happens with these contractors. And it's just, they get their eyes on the next prize or next target, and they want to go. It's your responsibility to keep them on track. It's your responsibility to help them stay on time and schedule and on budget. So you really need to take that.
Make sure you post a scope of work and a printable page on the wall and on your wall.
Yeah, we always did that when I worked with your brother. We always had a posted project scope of what we're expected to do, and there wasn't really a timeline there, but I would do that if I owned the property and I was doing it, and I would be having serious talks every week about where we are with deadlines, and then confirm payment milestones. So, if you're doing, let's say you're doing a kitchen, a couple bathrooms, and a living room, and you're getting into the kitchen. Well, the bathrooms, you could say, look, I'll pay you when this bathroom's done, right? We purchased the faucets. We've done all the work. We've done some significant plumbing and tile work and et cetera, install of tubs or showers. Then you pay them at the end of that. Now, if you're doing a bigger project with more pieces like a kitchen, you may have a milestone like, okay, once all the appliances are installed and running, we'll pay you a portion then. Then when all the cabinets are completed, we'll pay you another portion.
Right.
Then when all the tile work is completed and all the cabinetry's done, we'll pay you there.
Right. And don't let them, I think Dean was talking about, the guy is like, oh, can you pay me now? I'm done. No, it stays to the schedule.
Yeah. Also, well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it stays to the schedule.
Yeah, stick to the schedule.
I'm glad you finished a little early.
And Birdie's, birthday's coming up isn't a good excuse.
Yeah.
Because you need to get her a gift. Don't go for that.
No.
Oh, my child's braces. No, sorry. Your child's going to hold on another couple weeks.
Right.
Their teeth will be fine.
Right.
So don't let that happen, because they try and pull that. And also, I like this theory. I've had a hard time doing it, but hold 10% if it's a big project. Hold 10% for a month after the project's done. Because
that's a good idea.
The shower could leak, the tile could break or crack. Once you start using it and putting it to paces, only then do you find out. That floating wood floors?
Right.
Yeah, it looks amazing. And then you start walking out, it's like pop. It's popping because the glue wasn't done properly or something like that.
Right.
So if, depending on how big the project is, well, I would always go for it. I would always say, look, I'm going to pay you this, this, this. At the end of the project, I need 4 weeks to make sure that this is done, or 6 if it's a bigger project.
Exactly.
All right. And then confirm your payment. Yeah, we did that. Confirm your payment milestones.
And then we're going to put some tools on the website that you can use, and ideas
for tracking the project.
For tracking or...
tracking where they are with their progress. Daily photos, you could ask for that too.
Right.
That might be, don't get too nitpicky on these people. They're contractors. They're not social media experts.
Right.
So don't be asking them to post stuff. Some of them might be better than others, right? But if they're willing to, but you're just taking time away from them cleaning up the job site at the end of the day or something. So
and order changes must be in writing.
Yes, for sure. And we gave you a little sheet, a little tool for helping you manage that.
Right.
Nothing special, but anyway, just, it's there for you. So you can, again, work on the scope and when it changes, what to do. So in episode 12, we talked about red flags before you hire anybody. So this week we're planning flags to protect yourself after the ink dries. So, again, the month afterwards idea is very good for that. So now we're going to talk about the mid-project meltdown mode.
Mid-project meltdown.
So, this is a scary experience.
Right.
I've been through it. I'm about to go through a new project. I'm a little nervous about this happening on. You've been through it, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah.
Your own brother.
Right.
Right? Had some people coming in there working for him, and they dropped off.
Yeah.
So, these subcontractors can be scary. And so what are the signs that you're in trouble, Stephanie?
Well, first thing I think is key in anything you're in trouble. Communication drops or stops.
Yeah.
Right? So cost rises, crews are... First of all, I think in a project too, generally in a good contractor, like I just think of what my brother does, but he has the same guys, right? Like Steve works for him and all those guys. So you generally have the same. If you start seeing like random people, on the project that you never saw before.
Now, they could have specialists, but if, like you said,
right, they're just random laborers. There's a little, I would be a little leery of that. Yeah. And there's signals that the time to intervene is really right now. Yeah. A lot of people do this in life. I know I've done it, where you just, it's like your printer breaks and you just turn it off and turn it back on and hope it works, right? So you're like, okay, maybe if I don't do anything right now, I'll be better on Monday and I won't have to do anything. It's not going to be better on Monday. No. It's going to be actually worse.
Because you forgot where you were.
Because you left it all weekend. Yeah. And then anything that has to do with your roof or anything like that, that's a really huge thing. A roof should take one day. Once they go there, rip it off, make sure they know what the weather plans.
Rip it off one day, too. It's all relative to the size of the
project. No, but I'm just saying, they should plan it out. You have 3 days of dry weather, right? Like Dean was saying, you can't rip a roof off during the rain.
Right.
So just things
or
like that.
Or the wind, probably not a good time.
Right.
Roof as well.
Right.
Well, I want to talk about the Crews Go Rogue component that you mentioned. So I was at the dog beach yesterday.
Oh, geez. Did Grizzly bite someone?
No, Grizzly's wonderful. He's doing a good job, but there were some workers there. There was a contract crew that was obviously contracted with the city. And there was this huge dude that just looked like trouble working for one of the contractors. And they were doing maintenance of the grounds. So groundskeeping, landscaping.
Is this Montrose Beach?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this guy couldn't care less about anything. He was not happy about life in general. And his boss, who's smaller, way smaller dude, not a small dude, but this guy was huge. And he's like, hey, the guy, I could speak Spanish, so I heard him, what he's saying. And he's talking to the guy, and he's saying, hey, there's these 2 big gates for the dog park.
Right, you got to shut
them. Because there are dogs in there. And dogs go rogue.
Right.
The dog
exactly.
beach
that would be Misha, off the broils.
Exactly. So this guy is like, whatever. He's just aggravated at life in general. Uh-huh. And he walked back because the guy told him to do it. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to work. It was Monday morning.
Maybe too many cervezas over the weekend?
Yeah, and he just did not want to be there. So
Okay.
He didn't even close the doors after that. And then they left him open. And I'm like, this is a problem. These are contractors. They're probably making way too much money. I'm sure that guy probably isn't. But he's making a lot of money. And they didn't shut the gates. And somebody's dog is going to get out and hit by a car. But that's not even the point.
No.
Rogue contractors, rogue people. We had them on the job all the time.
Yeah.
These guys, when I was in, it's a great story. I worked in Mexico in trade shows in NAFTA. The great scam of NAFTA. And so we're in, and I'm managing this trade show at some level. And it's a huge, McCormick Place type.
Right. Mexico City,
25, 30,000 square feet of floor.
Right.
And as I get there, I'm talking to these vendors and these customers. These 2 contract guys walk by. And we're talking, I'm still talking, carry on. And it's 10 minutes later, and I see all the way at the other end of the floor, quarter mile away, the same 2 guys walking. And then another 10 minutes later, they came walking by me again. They were walking in a circle.
Why? Just
because
they
didn't, because nobody was watching their business.
Oh my God!
So they get paid $50 an hour and walk in a circle. So anyway, that's the contractor's job to do this. But to Stephanie's point on going rogue, watch out for these people who are not paying attention. Look out. They're in your home, by the way.
They're in your home, and then, like Dean said, one of the randoms, that were working for that before he took over that $1 million project, went in and wrote a check.
Oh, yeah.
To themselves. And it's what?
I couldn't even imagine that they had that stuff laying out.
Well, I don't think they had it laid out.
We didn't even cover this in the episode, but now we're going to go into this new segment.
Right.
Watch your personal stuff. If you're actively working on your personal home, move your stuff to a safe, your checks, your financials, all that stuff.
Right. And he said something, and then the most wild thing to me was he wrote it to himself.
I know.
So,
he obviously felt he deserved it.
If he deserved it. So just, things like, you wouldn't leave your car doors open while you go in the mall, right? So don't leave your personal stuff around when you're doing a project. And that should be a sweep before the project starts.
Yeah.
Put all your personal stuff in a safe, in a lockbox,
and your
whatever.
kids, because they'll leave out,
Right, like,
the key to the
like,
kingdom.
I think at one time I had someone steal an iPad.
Yeah.
And I was like, but it's gone. Well, I don't know where it is, but it's gone. I don't know where it is. Your kid must have had it. I'm like, I'm not stupid. They weren't even here.
Right.
You'll never get that recap, but just be very, very proactive. And one of the things Dean talked about, I know we always joke about permits, but it's no joke anymore. And, the city will shut you down and give you a huge fine.
Yeah, they'll fine you. But more than just finding you, they'll delay your project even further.
Right.
So they'll put a stop work order on it, and you'll be out of money. God forbid you.
And you will take a long time to rectify that situation.
Because they're not in a hurry to help you after they think you've
tried to circumvent them.
The process.
Yep.
So the other red flags to act on immediately, when the GC ghosts you or isn't showing up.
Yep.
They show up with liquor on their breath. It's a good one.
Or drinking liquor at the same time.
Well, that definitely better not happen in front of you. They're skipping site visits. The other one, budget creep. So now again, budget creep, if you planned it right, there shouldn't be much budget creep. If you're in there changing the faucets and the sinks, there's going to be budget creep.
Right.
But if they're just changing it based on, this or that, you better go put your eyes on what they're talking about. They discovered some concrete wall hidden in between something.
Right.
You need to put your eyes on it, right?
And then the poor workmanship, I think that goes back to what Dean said about the $1 million condo in Miami that I used duct tape for the floorboard, for the trim.
Right.
That was his trim.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
and that was on a $6 million rehab, by the way.
Right. So, that kind of stuff, if you see, if you're doing walls, like you said, drywall, there's a way to tape and sand and make sure there's no crack. If you start seeing cracks in the walls, things like that, that's not the house settling. That's them not taping or spackling properly. So
yeah, potentially. I mean, it could be heavy settling, but usually it's probably not.
Right. So what should you do when this all happens?
Well, stop all payments immediately. First thing you do, stop paying them. You're not going to pay them. You're going to start having serious discussions when they stop getting their money.
Exactly.
Document everything. Sloppy work, empty job sites. Also, one thing we didn't cover was subs, when they have subcontractors on site.
Exactly.
You don't know those people.
No.
And so the GC or GC representative should be there. Now, that's a slippery slope. If they ask you and say, we've known them forever, that could be an area where you want to compromise because the GC's time.
Exactly, but when you see randoms there, that's not knowing them forever. No. That's him running out of people and sticking people there. So
back to triage. So document everything, sloppy work, empty job sites.
Right.
When they're expected to be there.
Exactly.
Stop payment. Send notice to cure with 3 to 5 days for them to fix, and that's it. Now, and we gave you a little
elaborate
form
on notice to cure because people might not know.
Notice to remedy, notice to fix the situation. So whatever work they haven't done that they're expected to do, you have to cure it. You have to fix that deficit.
Where do you find that?
We gave him a little document.
Okay, cool.
It's just a simple.
Right. No, but I think we know what it means, but a lot of people don't know what that means.
We gave a little form to do it, but it's very simple. Look, at the end of the day, everyone gets all complicated about you need a lawyer. You don't need a lawyer. All right, you need somebody to just write a few sentences on a piece of paper with a date, your name, their address. You might need to get a post stamped at the
notarized
or stamped at the post office that you're delivering it.
Yep.
And then deliver the paper. That's it. You don't need to get a lawyer involved with half the stuff. I mean, lawyers get they slow the whole thing down.
Right.
I'm not trying to put you guys out of business, but come on.
Right.
So you could do it yourself. You don't need to engage these guys. Now, if it's a huge project, it's a different story. You'll probably have a lawyer involved anyway, and they'll know what to do with Notice to Cure. But you can look up Notice to Cure. ChatGPT can create a Notice to Cure. Just make sure you follow the postmarking and stamping and all that stuff.
Well, you could have where they have to sign when they get it.
Well, they may not, though. They may not want to do it, so it's better to have a certified letter.
Right.
But yes, I would always do a certified letter, certified mailing to their posted work address.
Right.
And then you deliver it and get them to agree to sign it under, I guess, the threat that we're going to hire somebody else. If you're not willing to sign this, now that's a real red flag, right?
Right.
You could have had a mistake. And by the way, now this is the first opportunity you're giving them to correct it. And if it comes to a second time,
you got to put your hands
really
up.
Start putting your hands in the air and saying, we're going to go
My
somewhere
one GC
else.
that was doing my basement, he stopped coming, he stopped answering me, and I knew where he lived, so I went and knocked on his door. I know.
You don't want Stephanie
No.
knocking on your door.
I was like, listen, what is going on here?
She
He's
gets
like,
up
la,
early.
la, la, la. Yeah, I'm like, this is not going to fly. We have no time for this.
Also, move all communications to email.
Yep.
And or text. I prefer email, but text is. What I would say is do text and then
Screenshot
do a
it.
summary email of what's going wrong. After
Well, a
that.
lot of GCs don't do email, so I would just
they
do
all
screenshots
they
and I
have
would
emails.
keep it.
No. Yeah, you keep all that stuff, but
Right.
you need it in email. Or email is the quickest legal way to do it now.
Right.
The notice secure I would do with the certified mail, but with these just general updates, you can do with email. That's a professional way people are allowed and expected to communicate nowadays.
Now, there's some things they can do to you too, so why don't we go through that? The mechanics lane.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Where are we?
We're on the bottom. Why are you flipping so quickly? So once you do the notice cure and they don't do anything, but the mechanics lien and liens against the project, they can file things. That's where Dean's project in Florida, I know we're using that as an example. The guy, they paid him, but he wants to be paid for stuff he didn't even do, and he's put a lien against their house.
Right. And the opposite can go true, too.
Right.
Your property can be liened against. That's absolutely
Right.
correct. So you want to keep it on the
That's
up
why
and
you
up.
need this
You
document.
got to pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you do the notice to cure, you're now protected.
Right.
And also putting everything in writing, you're protected. Again, you can do it in email too, but again, it's going to be harder. It's not easier to follow.
Right.
And then substantial completion. So you can have a document crafted. Now, this is getting into lawyers, where it's legally usable, even if it's not fully done. So
Right.
if that's something that you're going to get into with the lawyer.
Well, if you get to that point where they stop showing up, they stop doing that, then you kind of have to get a lawyer involved. If you do the notice cure and they don't respond to that, and they just stop responding to you, then you need to really get some legal advice because, they could put liens against your house and you don't even know it.
Yeah, that's another thing. You don't get a notification.
No.
So you want to check. I don't know what to think about that. We haven't come up with that.
We haven't. We have to look into that
But
because
that's
there's ways
interesting.
that they can put lien against your house.
They can easily do it,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact. So, and people actually, this is another subject, but people do put liens against people's houses, unbeknownst to them.
Yes.
So you should check these things. It's not that difficult to check. It's a clerk of the circuit court
Right.
in Chicago.
But
And they have online
you should
access.
definitely check that because if you're thinking, oh, okay, they've gone away, I've hired somebody else. But what if there's, they put liens against your house? You need to get the liens removed through all the
Right.
documentation that you have.
Exactly. And you don't pay them another dime until that
no.
lien is removed.
No, not at all.
Right. Because you can't refinance, you can't sell.
You can't
It's
do
just-
anything.
No, you're stuck.
So what do you do when you've tried everything but nothing is going right and
So
it's
you're
just
going to have
getting
to
worse?
fire your contractor.
Right?
Right. So, you've tried everything. Your contractor's not responding.
Right.
And if you're bleeding money or losing control, it's time to make the hard call.
Right.
And you're just getting a bad feeling, and this is just not going well. You're worried about your family or your personal items. Just call it.
Right.
You can always,
it's not worth it. They're not going to generally, I'm not saying everyone, but generally they'll move on to the next project. But, they're going to try to milk you for what they can get.
Right. So if they're not responding to your paper trail, they're not responding to your request for change orders.
Right.
They're repeatedly missing deadlines. And this is over weeks, not months. I wouldn't let this go very long.
No, and this is poor workmanship. You see,
Yeah.
it's as easy as seeing how they lay the floor, right? Like you said, the floating floor. It's how they cut the corners, how they do this.
Right.
As if you're getting a icky feeling about it, it's probably icky,
Yeah,
right? That's
exactly.
how I look at it.
Look at the you don't have to be a plumber to look at plumbing and see it's
It's
done
wrong.
poorly or sloppy.
Right.
Goops all over it. So just look at it. It's not rocket science. I mean, you'll know.
Right.
When they say What am I looking for? Well, you know it when you see it.
Exactly.
You'll know it.
You'll know it.
In most cases. Now, hidden behind that's why you got to inspect before drywall
That's why
goes up.
don't
stuff
put
like
any
that.
drywall up before you see what they've
Right.
done.
Exactly.
Send a letter in writing to terminate a termination letter in writing.
If you have to get intense about it, depending on the
Change
situation.
locks.
Change your locks. Remove site access from them right away. Notify any lenders or inspectors
Right.
from the city that there's issues, because the city will be upset about this and they'll get a demerit against their general contractor license or their permit
Right.
to work in whatever city you're in.
And then, just like Dean said, the client in his story paid 60% off upfront, and no lien waivers meant that they had to pay him twice. That's
Right.
another thing you could do when you start to work with a GC is say, make them sign a lien waiver, so they can't even put liens on you.
Right.
If they're a reputable company and they're reputable, they probably won't have any problem with that.
Yeah, but also you got to watch out for some of these little legal tricks. So
Right.
even after you fire them, they can still file a lien against you.
Right.
So, that's again why you have to have documented it up front. And a lot of dirty contractors will do this as a negotiation
And
strategy.
I think that goes back what you said. Don't let it go months. Like, you'll
No.
get this whole feeling in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And the quicker you nip this,
Yeah.
the bigger your headache,
the
less your headache
loss
will be. Yeah.
et cetera. And they can't claim a big deal. But, once, it becomes a real stranglehold
Mm-hmm.
because they can make you now have to go to court. Mm-hmm. So pictures, photographs, all that stuff come in handy. New contractors may charge more to fix old work because
Right.
they have to undo things. So you have to understand, if you get a new bid and it's like, why is it higher? Well, I had to tear everything out.
Because it was all wrong.
It was all wrong. I mean, this happens all over Florida constantly.
Right.
So it's a nightmare. So a messy exit with them just leaving and walking off the site
Yeah.
might be cheaper for you than
Right.
trying to stay the course and then having it unwound later.
Right. And you can't, like you said in episode 10, we can't rent out a half-built unit, right? So
Right.
you got to get it done. I think the biggest thing to recovery, when you go into the recovery plan, just put that old contract out of your mind, because you can swirl and spin and swirl and spin. Now you've lost sight of the new contractor. It's going well. Things are recovering. Let's focus on what we can do here. And then when you go back to that old contractor, once the project's done, and you can kind of go and hire the lawyer, what you need to do, but focus on getting the job done, because the more it goes on is the more money you're spending.
Well, I'd say, step back as you're hiring the contractor. Think about what you didn't do,
Right.
which steps you missed. And by the way, we're not giving you a to Z
No.
stepping stones of how to make the perfect project plan, right? So every project's unique and different. You're going to have different nuances, different needs.
Right.
There's going to be stuff that, unless you're a significant expert in the field, you wouldn't have known. And
That's where, one thing that you can do is hire an independent assessment of what has been done. Okay, let's look at what they did do and what we need to fix.
Right.
So when a new GC comes in, you're not telling him that you already had this independent assessment done. So if they're spot on, they're going to say the same thing.
Yeah. Now, let me give you a good example of a pretty simple, straightforward project that you can reverse engineer. So HVAC.
How is that simple project?
Well, if they didn't pick the right unit, they didn't do the right mathematical calculations, that's easy to figure out.
Right.
Because when you do HVAC or heating or air conditioning of a space, it's all based on the square footage. So if you have some guy install the stuff and then it's just not working, it's one, the venting is done poorly. It's having a bunch of corners and turns and things like that,
Right.
which they shouldn't do. Or they used too constrained or too large of a
Unit?
the ductwork.
Okay.
Or they put in the wrong unit size.
Right.
So that's something. It's just to give you a visual of, okay, how do we decipher this? Plumbing is a lot about vacuum. Electricity is about routing and about panel size. HVAC is around the compressor size and the routing of the ductwork, things like that. So it can be pretty simple to take a look at it in retrospect.
Right.
And then figure out what went wrong. Get this new contractor to come in and take a look at it. Have them give their critique, but have a couple, because now you're in a situation.
Now you need to really...
Or have the independent assessment done.
Right.
You want a new scope of work done, so rebuild the plan
right.
with what's left to accomplish, or what you have to undo and then redo. Look at the permits and paperwork, reset it, because it may be been filed incorrectly by the original vendor.
Right.
So,
or it expired.
Right. Either one of those. So you want to take a look at that, make sure it was accurate, and it probably wasn't if it's a bad contractor, so get it redone properly. And always get 2 to 3 quotes, 2 to 3 people coming back to look at it.
Exactly.
And then documentation restart, new waivers, new certificates, new milestones with this new vendor.
And then do your budget reality check, right? You're going to have to restart. That's a reality check. But what it's going to cost you might be, a shocker. But it's not like you can leave it. Right. So let's get it done.
And by the way, to that point, if you borrow money to get this done,
right,
and you're in trouble, but you're honestly recovering from it, bring that to the lender and explain it to them and be straightforward. Show them a side-by-side tracker, talk to them about your recovery plan, and tell them you want to continue the funding, you're going to need some more funds.
Right.
And here's why. We have a legal case to help correct this. And typically, anybody with a heart out there is going to, unless your banker's Scrooge,
to like what we talked about. Make sure you know your lender, right? Don't just go to a lender you don't know. Make sure they know what you're doing. No one's perfect. Don't beat yourself up is what I think the biggest takeaway we have from this. This is not just happening to you. It's happening to a lot of people out there. And that's why John and I wanted to talk further. I know Dean gave you a lot of information. And sometimes he just spews out information because he's been doing it so long. And he can walk into a room and analyze anything in 15 minutes. But that doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. We all are learning through this process. That's what Show Me How is all about.
Right.
Is helping you to recover, get some clear steps, give you some direction. We'll also look at different ways of posting things on the website. Tools we can kind of, as we go through this and think through it. If there's any other tools we can send out there to you, we will. But the biggest thing is really, really do your due diligence, really. And if it smells like a rat, looks like a rat, it's probably a rat,
Indeed.
All
right, so say we go into the case study we have here for today. So we have a 2-flat in Humboldt Park, and it's just a little scenario of kind of what went wrong and what lessons were learned.
Right.
And kind of tying it back to this whole episode, right?
Exactly.
So somebody working on a small project, again, a 2-flat, which is one of the suggestions we had in one of our very early episodes.
Yeah, 2-flat for sure.
Right, 2, 3-flat, 4-flat.
Right.
GC got to stop showing up, and the owner panicked.
As they should.
Right. But they had already done what?
They paid them too much up front, and that goes back to our milestone calculators. Really understand that you don't, as Dean said, you shouldn't be paying them anything up front. They should be filing all the permits first, getting that done, and then do your milestones. But if they say they need 60% up front, I'm just going to say this. Don't work with them.
No, obviously not. I mean, if it's a reputable contractor, they already have funds in the bank.
Right.
And they have relationships with the vendors that are supplying the materials.
Right.
Now, if it's a small deal, that's not the case probably. They're just a small mom and pop shop.
Then you could work with them.
You can give them a little bit of money up front.
But not
based
60%.
on itemized list of all the items that they're going to be purchasing. And you want to see that stuff immediately the next day.
And some things you can do too, and this is when I was doing a renovation in another state. You could go with the GC to a Home Depot and buy the stuff.
I was just thinking, to the contractor.
So you could go with the contractor and buy what they're saying they need. So you're like,
your card, and by the way, you get the credit card.
Yeah.
But credit card benefits, but if you have them. But the contractor might have a discount, so they might need to purchase it. But you could still be there with them, making sure they're purchasing
what they need, and then you know exactly what they're getting, right? So you're not, you know when the permits are filed. Make sure you get a copy of it if they filed them, and you could go on any city's website and find out if the permits have been filed.
Right, exactly. You'll be able to see them right away.
Right.
And then, so in this case, they had to bring in the solution was right along the lines what we said.
Right.
They brought in a good construction manager, paid him a $6,000 flat fee to get the project back on track.
Right.
And basically that person rewrote the scope, refiled the permits, and oversaw the licensed subcontractors that were coming in to complete the job for them.
And then how long did it take them to finish?
It was 5 weeks longer than they had expected, but they were under budget ultimately versus the full reboot. So they ended up okay because they caught it quick.
Right.
So don't pay in full up front.
Never.
Pay for oversight if you need it, like you said, especially when you're doing something out of state. And do not live with blind trust.
These people are not your, I'm not trying to be mean,
your friends,
but they're not your friends. Like when it's very clear when I was, we were renting to people when my dad would be like, these are my tenants. Yes, I like them, but they're my tenants. And I'm like, I didn't understand that. Business is business. Pleasure is pleasure. So you're not friendly with, these guys are there to do a job.
Right.
Tenants are there to rent from you. You could be friendly to your tenants, but you're not, like if they skip a payment, you don't want to get in that gray area. You want to keep business over here, personal over here.
Right, absolutely. All right, so.
Okay. Now that we scared you to death and that you'll never do a renovation project.
So if your contractor bails, who do you call, Stephanie?
Ghostbusters.
I set myself up for that. I knew that was coming. Surprised it wasn't already put in here.
Half our audience probably doesn't know who Ghostbusters is, but
no, because there's a new one came out.
Oh, did it?
Oh yeah, I think they're on 3.
Ghostbusters?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Wow. Seriously though, you call the building department, then you call a real estate attorney, then you call an inspector,
and then the hitman.
And
Hitman's
then you call Jimmy DeCaputo. No, I think before you do all that, when you say the contractor bails, life happens, right? So what we think is someone goes to you for 3 days. These guys aren't worried about you if they have a family issue. So one of the things I think is the key part, somehow, some way, always make sure you have their home address. I know I showed up, but make sure you have a home address and make sure you have another family member's phone number with them. If it's the wife, the husband, whatever. So you could call and maybe their son got sick. Maybe something happened. Maybe there was a car accident of a family member. But you need to be able to contact somebody else.
I have a side story with that. Just happened to me yesterday.
Oh, God, John.
I'm selling this real estate for this person. And the guy comes in with the offer, and the customer's not responding. And I'm like, what's going on? It's been like 6 hours.
Are you working for the customer? Or?
I'm working for both of them now, but I was originally only working for the customer. But I started worrying, and I realized I had his daughter's information somewhere, but it wasn't readily available. And I was in this pinch, and I'm like, oh, my God, this isn't like him. And you need to have that information available. So, if things start going wrong. And by the way, if the contractor's trying to slight you, you call his wife.
She's not going to put up with that shit.
She's going to be like, what are you doing?
Yeah. But it's true. I mean, like, before you get we all freak out, right? And we always jump to the worst case scenario. It can be the case, but try to rectify it before then. If you have an issue and you don't know, go to the Better Business Bureau first. See if other people have reported this person. That's a key thing.
Should you report? Absolutely, right?
Right, absolutely. But if you're before you get to that and you don't know if this person's ghosted you or they're really just having an issue, if he has 17 reports in the Better Business Bureau.
Well, you should have looked that up before.
Right.
That's on the front end.
Right.
That isn't now. The question we had put before you is, should you report a bad contractor?
Oh, absolutely. Dean even said that.
Well, I'm just saying.
Right.
That's the whole point of
Dean
this.
said, like,
so
yeah.
report them immediately to the Better Business Bureau and talk to your local city.
Right.
And your building department and let them know what's going on.
Exactly.
You don't want to put somebody else in that situation.
No.
And when the city starts hearing about it, they may, you never know. When you're talking
Dean
to people
said
about
that,
this stuff,
you know,
they
some
may
of
end
them-
up finding a way to help you.
Well, and, you know, when you have bad contractor, I think it's true in our area too, that if you report to the city, they're not able to get permits.
Right. That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
So, you know.
But not only that, they may be able to help you recover.
Right.
So make it easier on you pulling new permits, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a good idea.
You know, like we said about our scenario in Humboldt Park, yes, it was terrible, but you hire the right person, get you back on track, treat it like a fresh project, don't ponder your losses, just try to get through and get it done. And it ended up being that they came in under budget anyway. So,
exactly.
you know, just make sure you're looking at all those red flags, anything that can be going on. You need to really pay attention and don't just say, you know, even when your appliances are being delivered, make sure you're there to make sure they're not dinged or dented or whatever, just so you know that, oh, okay, then how are you going to get back, right? Who are you going to send it back to?
All right, so now, what are the tools we're giving you today? So we have a listener freebie for you, calling it the Renovation Recovery Toolkit.
I love
so
that.
So we have a little sample notice to cure, as I mentioned.
Right.
A termination template, so when you want to release the contractor, formally in writing, right?
That's awesome.
You have a little budget tracker. It's very simple, Excel spreadsheet, but not everybody's versed in Excel, so I just put that
No,
together
but it's
for
a
you
great
guys.
tool just to plop your expenses in, you know, like even hours of the people, you know, like were they really working?
I didn't go to that depth, so, but you could do that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, you could just make another column.
Yeah.
Right?
And then a lien waiver form. So
Right.
you got a nice lien waiver form at the end. So again, these will get the job done. That's all you need. All
right. And then just remember that if you have any questions, you can always shoot us a message at Show Me How, even on our Facebook page or
showmehowpodcast.com.
Yep. We'll answer your questions.
You can get us at John at showmehowpodcast.com.
Or Stephanie at showmehowpodcast.com. But, you know, it's really, you know, it's an exciting time. You can do a great job, but you can't fall asleep on the job either. So it's everything comes back to you got to own your stuff.
Own it. So whether your contractor vanished or your budget exploded, there's a path forward.
Right.
So project management starts after you sign, not before.
Right.
Mid-project red flags are your cue to act and start remedying the situation. Firing a contractor isn't a failure.
Nope.
It's protection.
Yep.
So don't look at it that way. And don't feel bad about doing it because they put you in that situation.
Right.
And recovery is not only doable, it's very doable. So with the right structure and the right tools, we can help get you back on track with those tools, or you'll help yourself
Right.
get it back on track. But again, if you have any issues or challenges, reach out to us.
Right.
And if we can help or provide you with some guidance, we'll be happy to do so.
And we can shoot it off to Dean too and ask him his thoughts on the situation. He was in Chicago for a long time, but I think in general, like a general contractor knows generally what everyone should be doing. So
now we've shown you how to fix a failing renovation.
Look at that.
Right?
Wow.
And finish it strong. So you're going to be in a good position. You're going to come in under budget. You're going to have great contractors and a beautiful home or property to rent to your
beautiful
customers.
People.
So thank you again for appearing and participating in our episode. Send in your questions, your answers, and your questions about your projects. Tell us about your experiences and let us know what you want to hear next as topics.
And if you guys have, you know, not that we want to be the rats, but we will be. If you've run into a bad general contractor, let us know. If you don't want to file the work, we'll let people know about it, you know, because you're saving the next person. And just like you got hooked if the person before you would have saved you. So think about it that way. You're paying it forward, and that always comes back to you.
Spread the word. All right. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.